If you were inducted into a satanist cult, ransacking and butchering survivors amidst the zombie apocalypse, led by a false god who was heavily influenced by the Teletubby show in his youth, what would you do? In this How to Beat video, I'm gonna break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat Jimmy's fingers in 28 years later. The Bone Temple. The Bone Temple picks up after the events of 28 years later. Spike's getting his introduction to Jimmy's Scarface tracksuit clan. It's obviously just a bit of hazing. Bastards giving Spike a lesson. If you want to survive, truly survive, on your own, you can't be a sniveling, weak, spindly punk always looking for a handout, someone to blame, someone to save you. You need to fight. They're obviously not trying to kill you, because if they were, you'd already be dead. In fact, they saved your life. Now they're trying to get you to prove that you're not a rat, that you'll pitch in, that you've got the fire to be one of them. They want you to pick up the knife and cock your arms after getting knocked down. Before you started getting pushed around, Jimmy straight up told you that there's no free rides in this gang. Anyone with a brain would realize this is an intro to the clan. If you're not a punk.
Fancy that?
It's not you, Jimmy.
Somebody please help me! Jesus! Oh, God.
Getting sleepy.
Fatally wounding the guy clearly just taking the piss out of you with a cheap shot while he's conversing with his buddies, surrounded by his clan. That was a punk move that any realistic gang would curb stomp you into a pulp over. Wow, look, Spike is so resourceful. He does have some fight in him. He could be useful. Our guy who got stabbed must not have been a true survivor if he got killed by Spike. To be the best, you gotta take out the best. You keep what you kill. Oh, f off. Look, don't get me wrong. The dude was a total dunce for turning his back on the new loner kid sitting next to a knife who he was bullying. That was dumb. Very dumb. Extremely dumb. But that doesn't make Spike a successor here. It makes him a backstabber. Well, leg stabber. The kid is so maladjusted that he can't take some tough love without lashing out. More likely, he lacks the comprehension to even understand that this is a lesson and they aren't intending to harm him at this moment. Got a real Gomer Pyle here. He doesn't think about the consequences of his actions, like how 99 out of 100 times, he immediately dies in this scenario. Capable survivor humans are in short supply these days, and the manpower of a group is vital. Killing a willing and able combat-aged male puts us all at risk with the smart zombie threat looming. Nerds. I've been taking a brilliant course on predicting with probability, using data to estimate what's likely to happen next. After all, life is all about probabilities, especially for the unknown.
The possibility of successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
Like, what are the odds that I hit a deer on the rural roads that I drive? How often do animal collisions happen relative to the number of drivers? And from that base rate, what's the chance that a deer ends up flying through my windshield if I'm not paying attention? Thankfully, Brilliant can help me better understand how to properly assess probabilities like this with step-by-step interactive lessons and personalized practice to learn by doing. Brilliant is a guided interactive problem-solving learning platform that helps you build skill and excel in a wide variety of specific subjects of your choosing, designed for ages 10 to 110. Their first block is called Taming the Unpredictable. I had to guess why an American Airlines flight turned back shortly after takeoff using limited options, then analyze historical data to estimate the odds of lightning striking a future flight based on trends and shifting variables. Lightning strikes appeared to drop in 2020, but that clearly tracks with fewer flights. In reality, lightning-related emergencies are extremely rare and slightly declining over time. The bigger question was other types of in-flight emergencies. By the end, I realized I probably didn't need to pack a parachute in my carry-on after all. The courses are crafted by instructors from MIT, Harvard, and Stanford, and they're honestly impressive. Way more engaging than most of the classes I took growing up. What I like is that they actually make you think. You're not just zoning out to watching lectures. I'm actively using my brain. To learn for free on Brilliant for a full 30 days, go to brilliant.org/nerdexplains. Scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description. Brilliant's also given our viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant. Thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. I can see absolutely nothing about Spike's character has improved since the last movie. If I was Jimmy, Spike would rapidly be meeting a miserable end to his life from what little I know about him so far. God, I hate this kid. It's funny, because when they found him, they were probably all like, wow, this kid must be something, surviving out here all on his own this whole time. Not realizing he's actually a complete idiot who would have been dead a dozen times over if not for being saved by other people. Burning their town's buildings down, dropped off an infected baby to the town, on and on. Spike strikes a pot of gold once again, because this is that 1 out of 100 time where the gang thinks him stabbing one of their guys makes him a successor. Jimmy renames Spike to Jimmy and hands him the guy's hair. He's now one of them already, apparently, and he didn't even have to do a single push-up or choke himself on a DI's hand. They even gave him his bow and arrows and knives back and let him walk behind them. How trusting. We cut over to one of the original Causeway Town's men. Maybe it's just some poor dude doing a bit of deer hunting in the exclusion zone by himself. Well, that sucks. At least his sacrifice was worth the vital research Dr. Ian Kelson, aka the Bone Man, is able to conduct by leaving the Alpha Z alive. Another set of bones for the temple. Cause fuck everyone. Human survivors need to understand their lives are worth less than the seminal knowledge derived from understanding zombie mating and reproduction anthropology. Science man too stupid to realize reproducing intelligent zombies are bad. Very bad. This is the same argument I made about chimpanzees and the people who try to keep them around to study their intelligence, not understanding that same intelligence makes them even more brutal and dangerous. We don't need to study them, we need to remove them. I mean, this Alpha is wise to Kelson's location and antics, now habitually showing up to confront him, and Kelson's only means of actual defense here is a tranquilizer blowgun? No way an elephant trank is gonna put a 250-pound alpha rage-infected zombie to sleep in mere seconds. Realistically, you're probably looking at 20 to 30 minutes to actually take effect, or roughly, after your entire brain and body's been consumed by the alpha and his pack. Speaking of which, what happens if more than 1 or 2 bum rush you at a time to spice your iodine makeup? Because they're under orders of the alpha, like the hunter. Right, you're dead meat. Dr. Kelson's pet has a name, Samson. The good doctor removes the arrows embedded in his belly, cleans him up, and sends him back on his merry way to rip another human's head off. Then he heads back to farming more bones, probably thinking to himself, man, there's still so many fresh human bodies out there. What a shame. I better get back to work cleaning them all up to enshrine their lives with a temple built in their image. Bro's properly facilitating a circular economy to ensure that he's got a steady line of busy work to keep himself occupied with, transmuting human lives into meaning for himself. This is peak villain work. I can't wait for this dipshit to develop a cure, only to be hit with the realization that he got all the humans killed in the process, and now there's nobody left to cure.
Damn you all to hell!
I don't think he's gonna get that far though. He's out here putting his blowgun down, trusting Samson to make an honest transaction. Quote, a quid pro quo, if you will. Oh, he blow darts him anyways. That's nice. Samson listens to Kelson talk about miracles, about speaking zombies who are still human under the infection. It's almost romantic. His poor late wife is stuck in his smelly dungeon while he's out here swooning over a giant hairy pipe swinging Z. Kelson's so unconcerned, he doses himself and takes a nap next to Samson, and miraculously doesn't wake up dead. It's a beautiful moment with happy music playing. So beautiful, Kelson can't wipe the grin off his face. A bright new day providing hope for the world. They're dancing together now. I'm afraid he's gonna have to put his wife's picture face down on the nightstand here soon. We cut over to a few other hunters. In a surprising turn of intelligence, they're using hand signals for communication. They're hunting in a group. They have men with spears, and they're at least paying attention enough not to get spotted by the Z first. Unfortunately, they're not as clicked up as the older gent would hope. As soon as he spears the first zombie and a couple other Zeds start rustling towards them, the younger two split off and run, leaving him to his zombified fate after he catches a spritz in his eyes. Glasses, or $2 gas station shades and face wraps, are apparently a pro move in this apocalypse. Yeah, the redhead is pregnant, but then why are you even out here in the first place? They run back to town where they run into none other than Jimmy's gang, who, after a brief introduction of the Jimmies, announces they're gonna kill them all and stay here for a bit. The red-haired woman immediately takes off running again. Red tracksuit Jimmy Inc. stalks after her, Mercy killing the man that she left to die on her way. Alright, she's good. On her way, she coincidentally runs into the Bone Temple and spots Dr. Kelson dancing with the Alpha Zed. Having found no sign of the red-haired woman, she returns to camp to find Spike puking his guts out while the rest of Jimmy's fingers flay these poor people's chest skin off. A terminal wound indeed. Ah yes, a stark contrast of the evil of man in the face of humanity and hope that one can find in the zombies. Right. All but one who he leaves alive, the young man. He offers him a chance to pick a finger to fight, and if he wins, he'll offer him a place in his gang. If he loses or refuses, he gets flayed too. Okay, I may have been wrong about the gang hazing that Spike was involved in earlier. You keep what you kill is the rule, and the whole game. I may have been unfair to you on this one, Spike, but you're still a worthless, frustrating little piece of shit though. Only problem for little Spike here is that he's undoubtedly going to be the one chosen to fight, which means he's dead. Oh no, he chooses the little fairy woman because Spike was outside puking. Lucky again. He's cut down and given a blade. If this was me, and I knew that she was probably a tricky lass who uses deception and speed to overcome her relative weakness, I'd do my best to avoid overcommitting to a single bold move, which she would expect, given you're angry about your friends being murdered. The real equalizer here is the blade that she has. With it, she doesn't need as much strength. The only real chance that this dude has is to get her hands out in the open so he can see what she's working with. A fake out will get her to raise her hands from hiding them like she was doing at the start, at which point he can identify if she has a blade and in which hand. If it's a single blade like she has, isolating and pinning that hand is the main priority, because once it's pinned or you knock the knife out, he can use his superior strength to bludgeon her. Unsurprisingly, he makes the amateur mistake of massively telegraphing his move and going for the full Hail Mary, and gets easily countered. Right before she rips the skin off his manhood for the finishing charity move, the redhead chick who snuck back into the barn slings an industrial hook into her skull. Could they not have gone with an arrow? How was she gonna silently stealth whip a 10-pound industrial hook on a zip line into Jemima's skull like that? Before Tommy bleeds out, he crawls over to a propane tank, ignites it on one of the lanterns, and torches another one of Jimmy's fingers. They turn on Tommy and sling an arrow into his heart. It's complete chaos as everyone's getting burned alive and killed. They bust out of the barn and spot the redhead fleeing to the gates. Jimmy, apparently who has a heart condition or something, commands and entrusts Spike to go get the redhead. Spike holds her at arrow point, then pleads her to take him with her. She nut kicks him, then locks the gate and runs. Good on her. F this kid. He cannot be trusted at all. I mean, if you wanted her to take you with her, why would you hold her at arrow point first? Like, if you had no intention of killing her, threatening to kill her is a little counterproductive. Well, with all the fire and screaming, I'd be expecting a bunch of zombies to show up. And I don't think the dancing Teletubbies are in any condition to be fighting the hordes at night right now. They best get leaving. King Jimmy is slightly upset by this deviation from his plan, but that's what you get for playing with your food. When it's time to kill, you don't talk, you don't dance, you kill. Spike, being the absolute moron that he is, runs back to King Jimmy with the rustled jimmies without the redhead and lies that he killed her, which would be very, very easy to disprove. And I don't mean by finding the body or lack thereof. I mean by just looking at the kid. Little bro, not a week ago you were headed out by yourself onto the mainland to set to survive all on your own, equipped with the skills that Daddy Jamie had instilled in you. And now you're crawling back to this psychopath? Just leave and let them pass through. Better yet, go home to the causeway, say your sorries, and spend every day of your life being an honest, hardworking, productive, quiet member of society to repent for your past transgressions and ill deeds. Being out here on your own isn't your thing, and you better figure that out quickly. The red tracksuit wearing Jimmy Inc. interrupts Jimmy and his other minions before they can exact charity from Spike and tells them their lord, Old Saint Nick, is up the road at the Bone Temple, and they should go see him in person so he can decide Spike's fate. Of course, she doesn't know what Old Nick, Jimmy's father, actually looks like, but given they think he's the son of Satan, they're Satanists, and Dr. Kelson is red-skinned, living under a pile of bones, and communing with demons, as they say. You can forgive the misunderstanding. I gotta point out that Jimmy isn't wise to be turning his back on Spike here. The kid he's overtly decided to painfully murder. The kid who's still holding his bow and arrow. Back with Kelson, he informs Samson that he's running out of morphine, and that without Samson's sustained opiate addiction, their friendship may be short-lived, and thus, he offers to give him a home in the Bone Temple. That's when Samson hits him with the word I don't know if that means yes or no. I guess no, because Kelson leaves him alive. The next morning, Jimmy's gang arrives at the Bone Temple. He tells his minions he alone will go to talk to Old Nick. The dilemma here is that they think Kelson is Satan, and thus Jimmy must be Satan's son. Kelson is in fact not Satan. He's a self-proclaimed doctor, and thus Jimmy's rule over his gang requires Kelson to act as Satan, because if he's found out as a fraud by his gang, whom are expecting to meet him, Jimmy will be forced to feed him his own intestines to maintain dominance and control over his group. Even though they had a nice chat, and they seem to be getting along with each other. Jimmy even tells Kelson he likes him. Kelson agrees to the act, stating the devil's always up for making a deal. To that end, he intends to treat Samson that night to rid the Alpha Zed of his psychosis, believing that the Zed's psychosis is making them see other humans, even babies, as a threat, the primary driver of the Zed attacks. Kelson believes that with a concoction of tablets that he has, Samson could become lucid enough. Enough for what? We shall see. Next morning, Spike tries to escape, gets attacked by a zombie who he narrowly defeats by shanking with an arrowhead in the back 100 times. Possibly the most inefficient zombie kill in recent times. Definitely not zombie kill of the year, and all the ruckus. Another Jimmy Finger tries to kill Spike for running, at which point his red tracksuit mommy saves his ass by stabbing the Jimmy in the heart. Has Spike done literally anything but get saved over and over in both of these movies? Why on earth would you try to make a break for it during the day when everyone's awake? Whatever. Back in Samson La La Land, the meds seem to work, and Samson starts to come to, almost regaining his humanity, and the rage virus breaking. Unfortunately, his pack of Zeds aren't keen on his journey of spiritual awakening, and a massive fight breaks out in the bus. Good thing he's a big We don't know what Samson's absence will mean, but despite this, Kelson prepares for the satanic meeting that night, lighting thousands of candles at various heights along the Bone Temple's columns. That must have been a lot of work. Kelson must have some cocaine stowed down there too. The Jimmies arrive, and Kelson puts on one hell of a concert. Blowing fairy dust hallucinogenics in their faces was a nice touch. Now they're hopeless to comprehend or rationalize what they're seeing without their prefrontal cortices. All the rock and roll draws Samson from his own mosh pit. The fire barbell disappearing act was sick. He holds their audience and plays the part that Jimmy needed for their perceived satanic lord to instruct them to submit and follow Jimmy's will. But Jimmy makes a key mistake, and that's stating the wrath that he and his fingers will wreak upon the human survivors of this world. The skinning, torture, butchering, hedonism that they will exact under Kelson Satan's orders. This ratchets up the guilt that Kelson's feeling. It almost still works despite this, until Kelson discovers that one of Jimmy's fingers is Spike, at which point Kelson feels forced to take a new direction with the script. His last command as Satan is that he requires a sacrifice, that much like Christ had to be sacrificed to ascend to take his place by his father's side, Jimmy, as his son, too needs to be sacrificed. He orders the fingers to crucify Jimmy, a bold move that was never likely to work without serious consequences. That said, given his relationship with Spike and Jimmy being a grade A asshole, he didn't have much of a choice. With everyone confused and up against each other, rats stuck in a burning bucket with no way out, a feeding frenzy occurs. Jimmy stabs Kelson, the red tracksuit chick kills the other two Jimmies, and Spike stabs Lord Jimmy, resulting in a KO from the red tracksuit chick. With Kelson on death's door, Jimmy Inc. tells them that she will obey his last command, and so they crucify Jimmy upside down. She tells Spike that her real name is Kelly, and they leave. To make Lord Jimmy's night even worse, big man Samson arrives. Samson greets Kelson by name and tells him, "Thank you."
Thank you.
Then does God knows what with Jimmy for mortally wounding his savior, his friend. The next day, we cut to Jim and Sam held up at a cottage. They see Spike and Kelly being chased by a horde and head in to help rescue them. Ultimately, Spike survived countless life-threatening situations through no means of his own once again. Kelson's research is basically lost forever with his death, unless the rehumanized Samson can pick his research back up. Maybe. Even then, the cured, and I'm using that term very loosely, are such a massive liability and world-ending threat that even though they may be cured, they must be destroyed. Sorry to say, but those infected must be destroyed. No reintegration, because if they accidentally sneeze in someone's face and infect them, with how quickly people zombify, you'll be watching that quarantine scene from 28 Weeks Later unfold, and everyone will be bloodthirsty, ravenous, raging zombies, maiming and murdering everything in their path before you can even think to find your little pill concoction. With the advent of the other Alpha Zeds emerging and basically no more tranquilizer formula left, it'd be extremely dangerous and mostly futile to embark on curing missions. So without a way to effectively cure others and no possibility of reintegration to society, I would hesitate to say that Kelson gave this man peace. Where once he was safe among the zombie hordes, Kelson rehumanizing him put him back in the crosshairs of every zombie in a zombie-dominant world. For that reason, I think the Zeds and Rage Virus in Bone Temple remain unbeaten. Moral of the story, Spike should have stayed home.